just want to begin by saying it is so joyful for me to see my synagogue community in the boxes. And I think of you all so much, and I feel very happy that I was given this opportunity today to address you. So I think this is an opportunity where my two most important things in my Jewish world are coming together: my life at UJA-Federation and my Park Avenue Synagogue community. And I believe that my job as president of UJA-Federation really reflects all of the values that we learned together at Park Avenue Synagogue: caring for others, showing humanity for our fellow human being, and actualizing the vision of making the world a better place. I felt hugely privileged to be the chairman of Park Avenue Synagogue, and now I feel hugely privileged to be the president of UJA-Federation. Today, we're going to explore one aspect of life that is extremely difficult: the life of the teenager during the pandemic, which I hope the information that you receive today will be helpful to all of you. This is just one area of UJA's work during the pandemic. To date, UJA has allocated over $45 million to serve emergency and ongoing needs caused by the coronavirus pandemic. From personal protective equipment for frontline responders, to kosher food for the isolated and elderly, to the Hebrew Burial Society, to ensure that every Jewish person can receive a dignified burial, an aspect of the pandemic that Rabbi Cosgrove recently spoke to us all about. Park Avenue Synagogue has always been an extraordinary partner to UJA, from our annual appeal to your committee PAS at UJA sponsoring today's event. We should all be proud of the incredible role that Park Avenue Synagogue plays in the work of UJA-Federation. And it's not just Park Avenue Synagogue's adults that are making a difference. Park Avenue Synagogue's teen community is an essential part of UJA. Through UJA's Center for Youth Philanthropy and Leadership, our teens have the opportunity to develop their leadership skills, volunteering with those in need, and getting hands-on experience with philanthropy. Park Avenue Synagogue teenagers are UJA leaders, and as you can imagine, I feel very, very proud of that. They are philanthropists in their own right. 25 Park Avenue Synagogue teens joined with dozens of teens from around New York to support UJA agencies as they confront the crisis in their various communities. Together, these teens have raised and granted over $105,000. So whether you or any of the teens in your life are new to UJA or have been involved for years, I thank you so much for what you're doing. I thank you for joining us today, and I thank you for being a part of this life-saving work. Now I'm pleased to introduce Pamela Schuller, Director of Here.Now, a program of the Jewish Board funded by UJA-Federation. Here.Now is a teen-led online platform, an in-person initiative which helps to promote and help to assist with the mental health and well-being through innovative content and creativity of our teens. Here.Now gives teens the skills to increase their resiliency while also educating the adults in their lives. Pamela is an internationally known disability and mental health advocate. She's also a professional stand-up comedian and has performed at comedy clubs all over New York. She holds a BA in psychology and youth outreach through the arts, and a master's in child advocacy and policy, where she focused her studies on creating comedy and theater programs as a tool for youth with disabilities to improve their self-advocacy skills. As the program director of Here.Now, Pamela partners with teens to talk about mental health, well-being, and resiliency. Today, Pamela is going to share her insights into teen mental health, particularly in light of the current social distancing guidelines and the environment in which our teenagers are growing up. She'll speak first, and after which we'll have the opportunity to ask her some questions. And I can only say, in preparation for this call, I had some time to spend with Pamela, and we have been given a great gift to have the opportunity to learn from her wisdom today. Pamela?
Thank you. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here with all of you. As it was mentioned, I'm the director of Here.Now. I'm going to tell you a little bit about me. My background is as a youth engagement specialist and inclusion director for a large Jewish youth organization. And as it was mentioned, for fun, I'm a stand-up comic. I also have a one-woman show that I travel with, talking about growing up with Tourette's syndrome through storytelling and comedy, and learning to embrace it and love what makes me me. I always mention that I have Tourette's and talk about that for two reasons. The first is that I think I infuse my passion and creativity into a lot of Here.Now. And the second reason is because I don't want you to think I'm winking at you through the screen. So I'm going to frame Here.Now just a little bit for you. That intro is amazing. I'm going to give you a few additional pieces of information. I don't want to dive too deep, but I want to put it in some context for when I talk to you a little bit about what the teens are experiencing and what I'm hearing from teens surrounding COVID. So Here.Now is a teen-driven Jewish mental health initiative supported by UJA and really partnered with UJA, which I'm really thankful about. And we promote mental health, wellness, and resilience through online platforms and creativity. We do this through a few different avenues. We have teen-written content in partnership with adults that we are able to publish on our website. We had a teen who wrote about, he published his college rejection letter and wrote about how so many teens go through this and it's gonna be okay. We partnered with 55 teens over the course of a year and an animation company to create a film about body image and social media geared towards littler kids. We have professional articles that we have professionals in the field write, and all of those are vetted by teens. And those are on topics like how to get help, how to support a friend, things who is struggling, things like that. We also have a soon-to-be-released Jewish mental health teen app that we're partnering with teens to create. A next big piece of Here.Now is events and workshops. We do some standalone events. So we did a kickoff event where we paired teens with professional stand-up comics to write as a comic, that was like a passion, to write comedy about loving and embracing their differences. And we sold out Caroline's Comedy Club in Times Square. Gary Goldman headlined. If any of you have seen his HBO special, he's amazing. We do a giant failure graduation ceremony that we lead at schools and synagogues and summer camps. In fact, we do a lot of visiting schools and summer camps, Jewish day schools, congregations, to lead innovative and creative programming that destigmatizes mental health and opens the doors to these conversations with the goal of giving all teens wellness and resilience tools. We're not doing clinical work. We refer out for that. We're really focused on these psychoeducational pieces, psychoeducational programming, and providing resources and tools for as many young people as possible and for those who work with teens. In short, most of what we do is preventative and not crisis related, and everything that we do is in partnership with teens. And that was kind of my quick elevator talk about what Here.Now is to put this in some context, but it's through that work that I've been lucky enough to spend some time with the teens at Park Ave Synagogue. I've led a few programs for your middle school and high school teens over the last few years. We did some improv to talk about failure. We played a game dispelling myths about mental illness. We did art to talk about resilience. We've had a number of your teens involved with Here.Now, from sharing our content, reaching out to us, coming to some of our events, which means the pieces that I'm about to share with you have some of the voices of your teens included, which I think is a pretty powerful and meaningful layer. So today I was asked to focus on teens and COVID, things to know, what we're hearing, but what we're really talking about when I say teens and COVID is grief and loss and change. I think it's important to point that out, and also point out the fact that because our teens are New York, many of them, or a number of them, are experiencing loss in terms of death as well in their life, in their community. Some of them are experiencing that, but all of them are experiencing loss in terms of change and things being canceled. And that's the type of loss we're going to narrow in on today. If you know a young person who is experiencing grief in terms of death and illness, we recommend that you find a way for them to speak to a professional and find healthy outlets for that level of grief. We will talk a little bit about that though. So for the next few minutes, I'm going to talk about what we're hearing from teens in terms of COVID, what they're feeling, what they wish parents, adults knew, and some tips from us incorporated. All of the tips from us have also been vetted by teens so that we know that if they heard it, they would actually feel comfortable hearing it and it would be helpful to them. So the first one, and I'm going to be honest, this one surprised me how often it came up, but teens continue bringing up the fact that they miss the structure of school. I keep seeing articles about creating structure for little kids, but teens need it as well, and studies support that they need it. And structure doesn't mean working all day and chores and that it's these days of tough stuff. Structure can mean scheduling time for breaks and fun and social media opportunities and self-care. I like to give the little story that about 7 or 8 days into this, when like only 1 or 2 of our schools had closed, and I was partnering directly with a group of those teens, I sent an email at 2 a.m. to 10 teenagers, and by 2:15 a.m., 8 of them had responded. And I realized, oh, okay, like we need to have some conversations about scheduling, and for years it's been done for them. And so we kind of did some partnership to create that together. In another meeting, teens refer to this in a lot of ways. I'm going to be honest that a lot of the things they've said are words that are inappropriate for me to share here. But a teen in a meeting said something that they had been calling COVID and this experience, and it sparked a great conversation. And we decided to try to root it in Judaism. And a teen came up with this, and I love it. This teen said, it's kind of like Bamidbar, which means in the desert, in the wilderness. It's this time of wandering between Egypt and the promised land, but we're not there yet. We're stuck in this place in the middle. And teens think, not knowing is hard, right? It's hard to pinpoint feelings and deal with grief and loss. And when things are still up in the air, it is so much harder. And teens ask that they just want the adults in their world to keep that in mind. And we'll try to give some tips moving forward with that. Our teens this is, I think, the biggest one. Our teens are experiencing a lack of closure and validation. Things like awards and graduation and proms. One of our seniors said, this is a direct quote, and I got permission to use all these quotes. One of our teens said, I had no idea that randomly one day was the last day I got to step foot in my school. I didn't get to say goodbye. I didn't get any closure. I don't even know if I can get my stuff from my locker. And then another teen said, we had a last day of high school and nobody knew it was the last day. And I felt those comments. Things like graduation and last day of school serve a purpose. Transitions are hard, and those milestones help guide it and ground it, and they are missing those opportunities, so things feel left open. A social worker we work with as well for Here.Now said they're experiencing this loss like a wound. And either it's going to keep bothering them, or we partner with them and work with teens to give them proactive steps to heal. And I like that kind of visual of it's a wound. This is a wound. What we can do, there are a lot of things we can do. We can get creative. We can see if they have any interest in brainstorming to create the things they're missing by exploring alternative celebrations. While some things might be postponed or rescheduled, others are going to get canceled altogether. And although nothing might completely replace them, we've all seen viral videos, right, of graduations on Zoom and proms on FaceTime, and we've all seen those. And teens wanted me to remind everyone that they don't want these ideas forced on them, but they want support in figuring out virtual substitutions. My favorite way when I'm talking to teens to figure out a substitution, because there is pushback, it's a tough thing to approach when they're dealing with the grief of losing that, is to start by asking, what is the purpose of us getting together? What is the purpose of this thing? What is the purpose? We did this with my family when Passover, we couldn't all come together for Passover. I talked about this. We literally had a Zoom call with my family, and I was like, what is the purpose? Is the purpose to be together? Or is the purpose that we all have to be in one room to eat Bubby's gefilte fish, right? What is the purpose? And it was pretty clear that, yes, we all want Bubby's gefilte fish, but The purpose is to be together and celebrate that we got through this hard thing. And once we narrowed in on that, we were able to figure out how to put that idea at the center of everything we do. So I encourage teens to think about the why. Why are we doing what we do? And how can we include that why in figuring out other ways to make it happen? I'm going to tell a quick story that I was talking to teens about on a call a few days ago. When I was in high school, my Tourette's was significantly more severe than it is now. I made faces, I made noises, and I was really, as an adolescent, used to being kicked out of places for being disruptive. And one day I was in math class, and my Tourette's had me making like a metronome type sound. And the math teacher was like, Pam, and I got up to leave because I thought he was going to be like, you're disrupting the learning of math. Like, can you leave and come back? And instead he quietly was like, Pam, you kind of sound like a metronome. Would you ever want to write a song about math? And as a weird creative kid, I got really excited about that idea. We ended up writing and recording an entire CD about math as a class with me sounding like a welcomed accompaniment in the background. Because that day, the purpose was learning the math, right? And the way we learned it didn't matter as long as we learned the math. So instead of learning from writing on a chalkboard, we learned it from writing songs. And I think that's such an important thing to talk to teens about in getting through this. You know, teens are full of ideas about how to get what they want and what they need. They just need an adult to support them. And I think that's, I heard that from a lot of different teens. The next thing is follow their lead on what we can do as a family. Don't shut their ideas down, and try to jump at the chance to go with it. It's meeting the teen where they are. I like to call that a yes and mentality, which is absolutely an improv and comedy rule. I do improv with kids all of the time. And this idea of yes and is like, this may stink, this may not be what you wanted, but this is where we are. The yes is what is, and the and is how we shape the next step. So it's validating, it's being honest that this is where we are. So let's say your teen says, like, let's cook, make a thing out of it. Like, get into it. Don't shoot it down. If your teen presents you with an idea that's just like truly impossible, find the core of it and see what you can do with that idea, even if it's not the initial idea that I had, but it's like with that in mind. The next thing is, as much as we can, let them feel their feelings and validate them. This is a legit loss. You may be tempted to remind kids that they're lucky to be healthy during a worldwide pandemic, which is absolutely true. That missing a dance isn't the end of the world. It's, this might pass. It's not such a big deal. But to them, it is real trauma. None of us have gone through this, especially as a teenager. So instead, try to resist those comments and validate, right? We can hold two things at the same time. We can hold the fact that, yes, we are all so thankful that we are healthy, and this is really hard. Both of those things can be true at the same time. So acknowledge their experience, validate that sadness and frustration. Things like, you're right, that must feel awful, or I can see why that would hurt and make you so incredibly upset. One teen said, I just want my parent to be real with me. Don't try to sugarcoat it, just be real with me. I like to remind parents to have one leg in worry and one leg in the place of constructive help and comfort and validation. The next one, and we're coming up on the end, I promise. The next one is to tap into their altruistic nature. Teens are altruistic. They want to give back. They get it. They want to make the world a better place. And we can use this in two ways. One, when they get antsy to go be with their friends, remind them that, like, you're right, this is so hard, and we're not being with our friends because we are helping other people. We are saving lives. Like, this thing that you are doing is helping others. So rooting them in that and reminding them. And also, teens are feeling pretty sick of talking about COVID. And so tap into this altruistic nature by coming up with a project that they can do. I led a webinar, and I'm happy to share the one page, but I had teens come up with like 30 or 40 great things that they can do, social action, social justice based, all from their pajamas on their couch. And the last kind of two, watch for signs of depression. I think it's always important that we remind people of this and bring it up. Sadness and depression often look similar, especially in teens who experience normal ups and downs. So keep your eye out on your teen's behavior if it starts getting destructive. There are a lot of warning signs. Some of them may include things like self-harm, rough behavior, hoarding, a loss of cheerfulness, inability to function as they normally would. Keep your eyes out for that. And this last one wasn't on the list until last night at about 11 p.m. when I was on a video chat with teens. We had a meeting with our highest level teen leaders. I told them everything I was doing on this call. A lot of them helped craft this with me, but I wanted to make sure that they felt good about this information, that they didn't feel like it was people talking about teens behind their backs, like all of those pieces. And one of them added something, and I watched all of them like, yes, that, and it connected to the whole group, so I want to share it with you. In this teen meeting last night, one of them said that how are you and are you okay is suddenly a loaded question, and the answer might be no. And she said, I want my parents to be ready to hear that. I can see how stressed they are. I can sense when they ask me those questions in an offhand way where they just don't have the capacity for me to be honest. And I want my parent to be ready for me to be honest so I can be. And I thought that was really powerful. I felt that one in my gut. So our advice is to be present and ready for that conversation. And when you ask those questions that are a little bit big and scarier these days, take a moment and be prepared for the answer to be no. And when that happens, make yourself fully present. Put your phone away, sit down somewhere cozy with your teen, make a cup of tea, and have that conversation and really be ready to sit down and be present and experience it and validate their feelings. Our teens are resilient. This is a hard time for our teens and likely for all of you as well. I know it's hard for me, but a reminder that resilience can be taught. And this is maybe not the most ideal situation, but we can take advantage of this opportunity to support young people and giving them these tools for when they go out in the real world. Just to all of the parents on the call, I know that you are doing the absolute best with the absolute worst. And honestly, when it comes down to it, that's the best thing you can do for your kid.
Well, Pamela, I just want to say thank you so much for sharing already these insights for all of us. I think many of the things that you said that apply to teens certainly apply to all of the grown-ups on this call as well. And you gave good tools for not only how to be a parent, but also how to be the adult who's going through this situation. So I've gotten some questions that people would like you to address.
Okay.
And the first two I'm going to put together, and that is just really in this managing this environment and being a parent at home with a teen, is there any distinction that we should be making on the weekdays and the weekends, like when they're in school and they have certain assignments that they have to complete and school is still hard? It's not like it's easier now.
Yeah.
Is what should be the way that we act as parents on the weekend?
So teens keep talking about please let up a little bit on the pressure. Teens are saying over and over that this is actually harder because they're missing out on, at school, they get a lot done. They have opportunities to socialize. They have opportunities to connect with each other. And suddenly they're on these Zoom calls where someone is just giving them material for 45 minutes and they have to soak it in, and there's no opportunity for discussion and engaging with other teens. I've spoken with a few teens who are straight A students who have failed something for the first time in their life right now. So I do think that we need to make sure that we are really being present and making sure we are including time for fun. Maybe lighten up on weekends or even on the weekday, kind of your rules on screen time, because that's their connection to their peers right now, and they're not getting it from other places. I would say in whatever scheduling you do, as much as you can, include your teens in the conversation. Because if we're telling them the schedule, anyone who has a teen is going to know that presents a new challenge. But if we partner with them and okay, what are the things we need to get done? What are the times that you need to have fun? How are you feeling? Then it's going to be something that you partner on, and whatever you come up with will be so much better.
Okay, the next question is, I think that all the parents on the call are a little nervous because the days have been very structured with school in place. But what is going to happen now when school is over if none of the summer programs that they thought their kids were going to are going to happen? And do you have any advice for how to plan for or handle the summer with your teenager?
Yes. Yeah. And this is devastating to teens. When I know that the URJ camps announced they were closing, and I had a lot of conversations over the past few days with teens really feeling that. I'm going to be honest that there's no exact way to go about this right now. Kids are grieving the loss of camp, the loss of their internship, summer plans. So a lot of the tips that I gave earlier, I think are helpful as well. Reminding them that this is a one-time thing, hopefully, like reminding them that like, yes, we will get through this. Camp had to close, or this internship had to close to protect people's health. And then I think that we should be creating structure in the summer. Again, the structure can be like, these are the 2 hours where we have fun, or we do something creative or weird or artsy. I also am finding more and more organizations that maybe were not able to do this are offering remote summer internships. And what a cool opportunity for teens to do something that maybe they would have never had the opportunity to do. I know Here.Now is creating a remote summer July internship for high school students, where they're going to be working with us to write articles and create content and finish our app and all of these pieces. But I've heard of a number of organizations doing that. So start Googling now. If we can create opportunities that continue to help our young people build their resumes and create meaning in a summer that's totally different from what they expected or hoped for, but still we can yes and it.
So I'm not a mother of a teenager, but I would say if it was me and I was listening to you, I would say if anything comes your way that we should be telling our parents about, that they should have their teens research, if you'll please make sure that it comes to the parents on this call. Because what you just talked about was such an interesting opportunity, and parents may be at loose ends about how to tap into those virtual opportunities that are being created for this summer. So if you might just share that.
Yeah. I made a note, but maybe that's a great article I can write in partnership with teens and start listing ideas. So I can work on that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. I think that they will be extremely grateful for that article. So that would be wonderful. And then our parents want to do the right thing, and they certainly want to do the right thing from their teenagers. Is there anything else that you haven't mentioned today that they should keep in mind and try to do to be responsive parents to their teenage children at this time?
I think I went through a lot. My brain is kind of going through what maybe I missed. Oh, you know what? This is something that I'd thought about that just didn't work in exactly. I'm kind of pulling up my notes, but social workers kind of call this idea of clay feet. And it means that you plant yourself and you are their steady. Remind your teens that you're not going anywhere. You love them. We can't control this pandemic. We can't control when schools open, what's happening with camp. There's so many things we can't control, but as the adult, as a parent, you can be the steady thing. And it doesn't mean it's not hard for you, but you can struggle and remind your teen like that you are planted and you're not going anywhere.
Everything you say is just so helpful to all of us, and I just can't tell you how much we appreciate it. And now I'm just going to quickly switch to a personal question to ask if you feel that being a comedian and having that view of life help to inform your work and what you bring in from seeing life under that lens to to your discussions with teens.
Yeah, I am surprised how often my comedian hat is so helpful with teens. I think as a comic, I early on became really comfortable with failure, with resilience. Like, you walk onto a stage and you just never know how people are going to respond to you. Are you going to get heckled? With what's going to happen? A lot of no's throughout my years of, auditions for things. And I love that level of resilience that's given me. And this idea of yes and, which I talked about, which comes from improv. I don't know if any of you have ever heard of this idea. But when I teach it to teens, first of all, I teach it through playing improv games with them. So I have these great, fun improv games, and we talk about yes and, yes, this is the moment we're in, and what can we do moving forward? How can we create a narrative that we feel empowered by? So yeah, all of the time. And I think, also, first of all, by the way, I always remind the teens that work closely with me that they never go in my comedy. So they feel safe about that, thank goodness. But to be able to laugh at these moments and create these times with teens where we are taking these hard topics and looking at it from 8 different ways, from, how can we learn from it, laugh at it, grow with it, fail forward. And I think those tools I got from comedy, and I'm able to now help teens learn in different ways.
And a final question is there anything that on the calls that you said that you had to prepare for today, the teenager said, if I could only tell my parents X, it would be so helpful. Is there anything in addition that you want to lay on us that you haven't mentioned before?
I think there are two things. The first is validate. Even to me, I had my mother say, like, just be thankful you're healthy. And I was like, yes, I can be thankful I'm healthy, and this can be really hard. So I think really just validating those feelings. And the other thing is I want to remind parents that the biggest protective factor for young people is another adult in their life that they trust, a coach, a youth group leader, a rabbi, someone else. And we're in this weird stage, this weird place right now where teens aren't having face-to-face contact with their protective factor, right? And in addition to that, financially, I'm seeing youth professionals being let go left and right. So in some cases, not only is it not online as of this week or next, they're not going to have access to that person at all. So I think being aware of that allows us to be checking in more. Again, being aware that, like, how are you? Say it and mean it and wait for an answer. And, teens want to find purpose and feel understood. And as much as we can be doing that, we can be helping them. I made a note that, like, remind our teens what we can be doing or help them find what they can be doing to relieve stress. Tell them it's fine to blast their music for an hour and you won't yell at them as loud as they possibly want, and you won't yell at them, and they can dance or sing or do whatever they want. See if maybe they want to dive back into Harry Potter like they're 7 and, like, relive the magic. Help them find coping mechanisms that work for them, because we are teaching them things that they can use their entire lives when things feel out of control like they are now.
Pamela, we got one additional question.
Okay.
Someone wants to know your advice on teens communicating with their friends. How do we encourage that? How do we keep that going? What can we do to not make sure they don't overutilize social media, but still have access to their friends in a constructive way?
So I think for every teen, what they need and what's overload is different. So it's hard to answer that as, like, a blanket answer. I suggest connecting with your teen and coming up with a plan and trying it and being open to reevaluating. But almost every teen I've spoken to has said, I need my parents to ease up a little bit on screen time, because it's the only way, right? Like, their screen is their phone. But sometimes social media isn't helpful. So I might connect or partner with my teen or teen in Here.Now to say, like, you're not getting anything out, or, like, are you getting anything out of social media? So then what can we put in place where you're getting something out of, where it feels really fulfilling? Do you want to help me schedule, like, a Zoom dinner with 5 of your friends? Like, how can I help you come up with something that's going to feel great and make it so they're not just, like, scrolling Instagram for 18 hours? I really believe that's a partnership with your teen and talking about it, and having that conversation, not when things are heated. Finding a moment to have that conversation when you're chilling out, when it's, like, a good moment, and maybe not having it, like, if you have 3 kids, not with all of them at once, but a one-on-one conversation.
Okay, thank you. So I know that I speak on behalf of everyone to say thank you so much for these tips. I know that I'm going to be thinking about them. I'm sure that all of the parents on this call will be thinking about them. All the adults on the call will think, how can I incorporate some of these into my own daily life? So Pamela, thank you so much for this. I know that I speak for everyone in saying thank you for making the time for us and sharing this with us. Excuse me. Now I turn it over to Carol to conclude.
Okay, thank you so much, Amy and Pamela. We can't thank you enough for joining us today, and we so appreciate your wisdom and everything that you had to say during these challenging times. It was so helpful. We're really grateful to you for joining us on this Friday afternoon. And thank you for everyone who joined us on this call, and we really appreciate you being part of the UJA at PAS community. If you have any questions, you can reach out to Becca Newman at UJA or Mara Bernstein at Park Avenue Synagogue. We'll give you the contact information. And thank you so much for being here. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Have a great weekend.